All right, recording has started. This is the June 9th, 2026 Rook community meeting. So let's jump into our milestones and catch up there. Last meeting we had was May 12th, and we've done a couple of patches and releases, etc. since then. So let's take a quick look and see if there's anything worth mentioning. Starting with 1.18, we had a .11 patch since the last time we chatted.
Mhm.
Anything big in there?
I can't remember anything specifically to mention here. I think my question for 1.18 would be to Josh, since the new, was it Reef or
Yep,
Squid? The new
squid.
Squid came out with .4. So does that unblock you to move on from Squid?
I think so. I have a test cluster that's running 19.2.4, and nothing's come up yet. So I'm planning to give
Nice.
it a few more weeks to see if anything props up and then start rolling out into my production environment. So I think at this moment, it looks like I can let 118 go.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I guess the timing worked out well anyway with 1.20. We delayed a couple weeks. So 1.18, we can say we don't have any more planned uh, releases. Although it's still possible. We're just out of the normal release cycle for it now.
So like a critical fix comes up, then that's fine. But otherwise, it won't be part of the regular trains.
Yeah, not regular trains. Exactly.
Cool. Yep. Then this stands. Then here.
Not planned. Yep.
There we go. Okay. Sounds good. Let's take a looky then at the 1.19 patch release since the last time we met.
Mhm. I just picked up a few things here. Anything worth mentioning? I don't know. Just a regular maintenance release.
Okay. I'm messing with some settings over here real quick.
Okay.
Okay. There we go. Let's take a look real quick at the project board too, just to see if there's anything. Nope, there's not anything ongoing there, so
All
nothing
clean.
major.
Amazing.
Yep. Okay. Look, doing great. Doing great.
Yeah,
Alrighty
I'm
then.
thinking next week we'll plan on the next release. Uh, so I'm kind of tending towards, instead of a bi-weekly cadence, more of a 3-week cadence. So I haven't heard of any concern of that, but if it seems to be working just fine
Yeah,
as long as there's no urgent fixes.
seems very reasonable. All right, and
Excuse me,
then we
Travis, you mean,
go ahead, Michael.
sorry, 3 weekly cadence for the patch releases, or what are you talking about? I didn't
The
quite get
patch
it.
releases, right? Like
Okay.
between 1.19.6 and
Mm.
.7, it can be 3 weeks between them.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Cool.
As long as it's consistent and reliable for our user base, that's going to be good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I assume that doesn't come with any quality drop. Then
No, no, it's just reducing a bit of overhead.
cool. All right, and then for 1.20, it got that release out just last week, I think that was. So
Yeah.
the latest minor release here.
Yeah, big change was the CFCSI operator is now required and all settings that have been in the Rook CSI settings have to be migrated to the new CSI CRDs. So I've got a migration guide for that. And there were a few people struggling with that, but it looked like mainly a documentation issue. And so far it seems stable from the feedback we've seen so far since the release.
Is there further documentation, like corrections or additions that need to be added to streamline or smooth out that experience?
Well, we had a couple of doc PRs that we already merged,
Hmm.
but I think it's smoother with those updates.
Okay,
For
so nothing
example,
left.
yeah. For example, for the new, there's a CSI driver's Helm chart, which is new that's required now, and we were missing documenting the default values to install that work with Rook. So that's documented now,
Ah, got it.
for example. Yep.
Okay, good. Then glad we followed up on that then.
Mhm.
And then any major features to call out too?
Let's see. there were definitely some features listed there in the release notes and the blog. And I mean, RGW accounts is experimental. NVMeUF is still experimental. Two-node cluster is experimental. And Parth is going to be talking about that one at KubeCon next week in India. So,
Two-node clusters is quite an interesting one.
yes, there are actually still 3 mons, and one of them floats between the 2 nodes. So that's the key that you might scratch your head and say, wait, what? What? Yeah, there's from the blog, I linked into more details with the design doc, but more details coming with that feature. Parth has a PR in progress right now that will kind of get that feature more ready for KubeCon.
Awesome. All right. I'm glad we got the 1.20 released out, successful. And then thanks folks for following up too, to make sure that the rough patches that folks were having with upgrading and the CSI stuff was smoothed out with documentation. So thank you for doing that. Let's look at the board then, for upcoming patch releases on 1.20. See what's going on there.
Yeah, some things in progress. We're trying to figure out, like getting the CI working on Kubernetes 1.36. Michael's working on that.
Nice.
Some other things. Yeah, nothing blocking, but we'll plan on the maintenance release, first one next week.
Okay, great. Yep, you said nothing's blocking, so we'll hold that. That's the train will go. As far as we know right now, train will go with what's on the passengers that have loaded.
Yeah, maybe I'll take the question mark off and just say let's plan on next Tuesday.
And both of those? Okay. Sounds good. All right. Anything else for milestones and releases? Okay. Let's move on then in the agenda down to the community topics and questions. Yes. So yeah, Travis, this is something I wanted to chat with you about already anyways. So perfect forum to do so. Do you want to introduce the topic then?
Yep, exactly. Yes, you were on that email, but CNCF basically reached out to Jared and I and said, hey, do you want to join, basically have all the Rook users join the CNCF Slack. It's a paid enterprise, whatever account. And so it gets all the message history and all those benefits. And we no longer need to have would no longer need an independent Rook Slack. I'm kind of on the fence about, do we really want to do this? But let me explain a bit more about it. So they would basically take all of our Rook users in Slack and import them into the CNCF and basically automatically add them all to the Rook channels, whatever channels we decide we want to map into. And so Rook users could be added. I'm not super clear on how disruptive, like if would the users get added to that workspace automatically, or they have to go, maybe they get an invite to go join at CNCF if they're not there already. So there'd be some sort of small transition there. And then we could choose to kind of sunset the Rook Slack or keep it online for some transition period, or maybe keep it online indefinitely. And just kind of maybe we document the new channels in CNCF Slack to recommend users, and we can keep the old one. Like there's a lot of options here, but I feel like another one we were just talking about in the Rook Huddle is Artem's idea. Yeah, what was it? So you can have shared channels between workspaces. So we could maybe even have shared channels with the existing Rook Slack, and then point people to the new channels by default in the CNCF Slack, and keep the old one online. I'm just throwing a lot of ideas out there right now. I'm curious for your thoughts, Jared, or others.
Yeah, it did have a couple of thoughts. One thing I was kind of curious about, Travis, is like, did you get the sense that did this lean on this more on the side of mandatory from the CNCF than optional? It seemed like they were coming with like the language they were using seemed almost like a mandate, but not really. Did you get a sense of that?
The language seemed like that at first, but in the follow-up threads, it seems like it's totally up to us if we want to. And or more of a, hey, we're providing this service. Would you like to take advantage of it? That's how I feel like the intent was.
I see. Yeah, in
I don't know
some of the
what.
ways they were. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. That's it.
Yeah, some of the ways they were kind of selling it is like, no need to like we'll reduce maintenance burden and such. And like I don't I don't feel like having the Slack is a maintenance burden. It's like the
Right.
burden is engaging, responding, answering questions. Like that is the burden, and
That's
that
the
doesn't go
burden.
away no matter what Slack workspace you're in. There's not like I don't feel like there's a lot of overhead that we'll be saving ourselves. From a maintenance and operational perspective. So I don't think that one really says much to me. Obviously, the benefit of full history is quite nice. It's definitely tough for like, oh, didn't we have a conversation about this? Oh, nope, it's outside the window. It's you can't see it. Dang it, that stinks. So it's like loses a lot of permanence and it becomes much more of an ephemeral discussion thing, which maybe what you should treat Slack as anyways, but that's a different topic. So that is very nice, but yeah, I was a little concerned about the migration path. It feels like they have an idea about how to go about it, but they're not entirely 100% confident in the impact either themselves. They're like, okay, we're going to try a test one and see what happens type of thing. So, I would like to see more confidence and like very clearly, this is what's going to happen. This is the experience that everyone will get. Because I worry about like, this will definitely be one of those like cliffs or those forcing functions where we lose some of the community, of like people never follow up to go and be part of that Slack too. Then we might like kind of fracture the community a bit. But then you could also say that, okay, if folks, how engaged were they already anyways, if they don't, come along for the ride. So I don't know. I feel like we built up this community in our own Slack and I kind of like the independent nature of it, but I'm not against doing this because of the benefits you get.
Yeah. And I'm kind of hesitant, like, will I notice the messages in the new Slack myself? Yeah, as long as I mark them as notify me about all messages to the channel, hopefully I would.
I imagine a lot of us are already like I'm part of the CNCF Slack already. I imagine everybody on this call is already part of the CNCF Slack, right? Like for people that are pretty engaged in the cloud native ecosystem, like we're already members of that Slack ourselves, right?
Yeah, I can't say I look at it that much unless I'm tagged, but yeah, that's me. There's so many Slacks channels across multiple workspaces.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not in the CNCF Slack. I'm just in the Rook and Kubernetes Slack workspaces, not CNCF.
Yeah,
I wasn't even aware that there's. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't even aware until today that there's a CNCF Slack. Of course, I could have expected that. I can only imagine this transition would be for some time you join both Slack workspaces at the same time and start switching from using the Rook one to CNCF one until maybe the Rook one is kind of decommissioned at some point. Is probably the idea here. I don't think that there'll be mirroring in lifetime also. In life, I mean, is it? It's just even if you create corresponding channels, the conversations won't be carried over. I think it's just parallel for some time, and then the old one is going to be going down.
Well, we could keep them both up indefinitely, essentially. And if we can link the channels and share them, like Artem's suggestion, that's a good possibility to just another entry point. And maybe we'll get some more users who are already in the CNCF, but now notice the Rook channels and join too.
Yeah, long term, my instinct is to not have is to consolidate, is to not have multiple workspaces in which you need to be monitoring or people can expect to be engaging there. Like a transitional phase, I would think that makes sense. But I think long term, my instinct is not to have two long term running separate instances that we have to keep up with.
Right. So maybe let's chew on that for a bit.
I think we'll get a little more information as well, Travis. Like when I can't remember what their name is. The person that's working with you there is going to do like a test migration or kind of give more information on it. We'll have more data to help us understand the impact of and the experience around what the migration would look like. So then, yeah, I don't think we need to make a decision right now because we don't have that data, and we will have that data soon. But yeah, for probably what my instinct is right now is like, I unless the migration is very smooth and like not 100% seamless, but
mostly
enough sufficiently seamless, like I don't I'm not jumping at like, oh my god, finally they've invited us, like can't wait. Like
right.
I'm not too jazzed on it. Or not I'm not like overly excited. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, we'll see what they say for migration experience, and then we can let this team know, and we can make decisions after that.
Yeah. I'm curious, have you seen an invite for others like crossplane or
No, and the crossplane one, I was absolutely thinking about that, and like that one, I'm like, man, we've built such a community there, and like I'm even more hesitant to make that migration there.
Sure.
It's like part of our we have. I don't know, man, and like there would be so many places that people would be like, wait, what happened? Where do we go now? I don't want to disrupt the community that way.
Right. If there's any disruption, it probably doesn't make sense.
Yeah, disruption is not worth the benefits here. So, okay, cool. We'll discuss more when we have more data. Next topic here, code cleanup.
Yeah, Josh, do you want to put that in or take that?
Yeah,
put the placeholder.
So sort of the backstory for people who are going on. I've been opening some PRs to remove dead symbols and functions, and this is a LLM exercise. And sort of the motivation here is twofold. One is just there's dead cruft around that I keep noticing, and so it'd be nice to get that cleaned up. And two is sort of, I guess, some fear that if we don't do this sort of housekeeping, community is going to start opening large PRs to do these housekeeping and one big bang PRs that'll be difficult to review. So it just seems like it behooves us to make some motion on it. So I've been slowly sort of working towards this and trying to come up with a model, some prompts, I guess, with the LLM to get it to structure these things into small logical chunks. And I think I kind of have a workflow worked out now where I have it do like a fan out through multiple directories and find candidates, and then I give it thumbs up, thumbs down, like, oh, that's a small self-contained change and go. So that's sort of where that's all been coming from. One thing that I have had Claude go off and do is look for symbols and functions which are exported but aren't used external to the package, and there's a few hundred of those. So one question is, do we want to try and police that and say we're going to unexport things? Or are we going to take the position that Rook is not intended to ever be embedded within another project and have its symbols used like a library?
It's a good question. I can think of a couple places actually where we do have external ones, like for use downstream, but it's really rare, and I don't think we need to try and support all of them by any means. Curious for other general thoughts on that, though.
Yeah, I mean,
acceptable. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Is it acceptable to just remove functions and wait for issues in GitHub? So it shouldn't be like a public contract like CRD or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my stance is that right, like Rook is using the package nomenclature rather than the internal nomenclature, but I think most users should I think most users understand intuitively that like what Rook has going on inside its like package directory is not really intended for external consumption. Like we're not producing libraries. The only thing that we produce for external consumption is our like CRD APIs really. So I don't, yeah, I don't feel the need to change like exportedness of symbols en masse. Yeah, I don't I don't think that we right currently we have a bunch of exported symbols, but like we don't have community burden to like support them.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. It's even though they're exported, we don't support them, really.
I think that's totally reasonable. That's what I've assumed as well. But I didn't know if people were going to have feelings about then removing dead externally exported symbols because of that, if that's something we need to think about. But I also, I mean, I'm very loath to restructure the whole code base to move things to be internal packages. So,
Right, let's skip on that. It sounds like we
Yeah.
agree on. But I
Let
think
me
we're
just
fine
say-
to delete dead code
Sorry.
that, even though they're exported, because we don't expect things to be consumed from that API perspective.
that sounds totally reasonable. And so I guess I'll just proceed on trying to open these small cleanup PRs one at a time. And
Sure.
see how it goes.
Yeah, if I may just offer an opinion here. So first of all, I think this kind of cleanup and technical debt in the area like cleaning up is a good thing. I'm personally also always intrigued when I find some areas like this. And this is also a reason, Josh, why I jumped on your PR, offering some review comments there. But to be very honest, it was not such a small PR. It was actually quite a lot of diff there. So
Yeah.
I'm usually all for.
I've responded to that, and I'm trying to break things
Yeah.
up even smaller now. And so this has been sort of a process of me. I'm driving Claude to do this, right? And so I've got like a plan file, and I've been iterating on this, and now I've had it write a skill for doing this, and to try and break this up
Cool.
into small pieces because I assume that, I mean, this is just one instance of a systemic refactoring in the code base of removing stuff, which is the easy case. I'm sure there'll be other stuff in the future trying to come up with a model for doing this to leverage these tools to make our lives better. I don't want to have these huge monster difficult to review PRs that could cause regressions. So it's like a learning exercise.
Huh.
And just speaking up because I'm certainly interested in these efforts and perfectly happy to offer my reviews when you're creating more of those. Feel free to ping them to me in Slack.
Absolutely, we'll do.
Nice, thank you,
And
Michael.
I guess technical discussion as deep as this one should probably be taken offline of this meeting to Slack or whatever, direct conversations. Just thinking.
Sure, absolutely. I
One
really
more
appreciate it.
comment on that. I wonder if instead of having a lot of little PRs, if there's some medium-sized PRs that might make sense. If it's all dead code and we know it's dead code, if the CI passes, it's probably safe in general to go ahead with it. So a lot of small PRs just seems like more burden than we need. But
Okay. I can reach it up. I was trying to find the right level. I wanted to make it so that things were easy to review, that you could see that things weren't tangled up. I mean, my first iteration, I was just letting it go wild, was a
Maybe
bit
too big.
overwhelming. Nobody has seen those.
Yeah.
So trying to find, what the right level. And so right now I have it going through like, it'll do a fan out through subdirectories. And the prompt is to say, okay, find me 3 groups that would make like a small PR. So like not just a single change, but like 3 things that are logically grouped, and then report back on those, and then I'll thumbs up, thumbs down them. And I've gone through and skipped a bunch because there's functions that are like unused, but it's sort of part of a logical API, like, add, update, delete. Like, okay, then we'll leave those alone. So I'm still doing some human filtering, and then the things that are really like the whole file can go. It's like, okay, those are thumbs up.
Great.
But I will take that feedback, and I will try and for the next tranche. There's already a bunch that are open as drafts, but for the next tranche after that, I will try to increase the size a bit.
And I think it's important
it has to be
always keep
increased.
this human touch there. Sorry, Travis, please go ahead.
I was going to say, it's up to you really as you're opening them to be mindful of the overhead for yourself too. That's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say that, as you're saying, hey, always basically modify yourself what the AI has given you. So it's important to keep that human touch on the code that we are changing, I think. Plus, finding the right level of granularity is important. I personally, though my voice doesn't have such a weight here, certainly, my personal preference is usually to split it up more like in commits or PRs. And I know Blaine is certainly in the other camp sometimes, telling from the reviews he's given me sometimes. But this is a personal preference. I do think that speeding up more sometimes gives more clarity to the Git history, which is kind of our documentation of changes in some regard. Anyway, just mumbling on here. We can take this offline as well.
But I agree with everything you're saying. It's very subjective. The smaller the PR is, the easier it is to review. But I think that some of the context gets lost then if it's one part of a larger series. So I completely agree.
Yeah, this all sounds pretty reasonable. And I like the discussion here too, just from a engineering practitioner craftsmanship type of perspective, because it feels like sometimes on GitHub the prevailing etiquette these days has degraded massively of opening up willy-nilly PRs that the author doesn't even understand themselves, and giant walls of text, obviously generated that makes no sense, and it's like, oh my gosh. So this here is a much more measured and thoughtful type of approach that we're taking here as a maintainer team, and I wholeheartedly support that. So thank you for your being good engineers still. It's hard to tell how many there are out there still in the world.
Well, I think as a community we are learning how to use these tools. Certainly I am. I perpetually feel like I'm behind the curve here. But there's sort of like some innovations that I've had in the last couple of months. Like I've realized that I can ask Claude to pull. So I can say, open a PR, pull the CI status. If there's a failure, and analyze that pull down, and then iterate and repush the PR on your own. I haven't done this for Rook, but I've done this. Actually, I have done it for Rook. But I do this internally at the day job all the time. I'll have it do promotion workflows between different repositories, land it in this repository, go through this workflow. If it's good, if it passes review and gets merged, then go ahead and open a similar PR in different repositories and go on. And so sort of building up these sort of pipeline workflows has been interesting and a little surprising, but the big innovation of being able to have it, ask it to pull in the background for PR CI status and then to respond to that has been actually a huge productivity gain, because I can fire off a bunch of stuff in parallel and then move on to the next task and allow it to iterate if there's failures.
Yep. And the core takeaway of like we're putting thought into it is the differentiator between the willy-nilly world out there of people just opening up a Claude or OpenClaw bot or whatever and not even looking at what's going on. So thanks for thinking. Thanks for using the brain there. All right. Next topic. The Object Suite refactor.
Yes. So this is something that I have been sort of fiddling with for about a year and saying that I'm going to put more effort into. And I'm now to the point where I want to put some more effort in and push this project along. So the motivation here is that the Object Suite is pretty much our slowest running single job within CI. And so we have this kind of pressure and the pressure is actually really me wanting to add more stuff into the integration suite, and everybody else saying, no, it's taking too long. It's the long toll in the tent. We need to make it shorter. And so I've been saying I'm going to try and do some refactors on this. And so I started moving towards new Object Suite tests being driven by purely using a Kubernetes client as opposed to shelling out to run kubectl. And then the current work I'm doing right now is to try and, instead of just polling for things to happen, is to start setting up watches to try and save some seconds there and remove some of the startups of Ceph object stores. So we're standing up and tearing down RGW instances multiple times within that suite. I'm on a path now to try and eliminate most of those. But we are always going to have to at least do one setup and tear down for TLS and not TLS. So one of the big questions here is, should we split out running the Object Suite with TLS to be a separate job or not? So I think that's a big one. And then if anybody has thoughts on this, I've thought about longer term, maybe trying to move away from using the Testify suites to maybe using Ginkgo, because Ginkgo has support for concurrency, whereas in Testify suites that it's explicitly not permitted and doesn't work.
I can definitely say I would be in favor of splitting out the TLS and non-TLS suites to run concurrently. Yeah, and eliminating all of the unnecessary times when we're standing up a new RGW instance just to like run some other subtest like that seem like really big and easy wins. I think it would be good to see how far that gets us. I would be hesitant to switch to Ginkgo just because like I know we have a lot of people used to the Testify suites. I don't really love the Testify suites, but I also haven't particularly loved like what I have seen of like Ginkgo suites and stuff as well. Um, but if there's like concurrency we need, then that may be a reasonable reason to switch if we are still finding ourselves time crunched.
I agree. I've done some small projects with Ginkgo, and sort of I think the pattern that I like is using the testify, assert, and require as part of that instead of the Ginkgo test helpers, but then to try and wedge it into their larger suite. I mean, it's a different model for sure. And it's inescapable, but it is certainly a way to gain some speed back because of concurrency.
To summarize, the benefit of Ginkgo would be parallel tests instead of only serialized. That's the
Yeah.
big win.
Yeah. So right now, the knob that we have for concurrency is just separate jobs. So we need to make
Right.
big high-level splits, and then we're consuming more runners to do that. I think that for a lot of these things where we're asking for a resource to stand up and then we're waiting for it to become ready status, there's probably a lot of opportunity there for allowing multiple suites to just progress in parallel there. So true concurrency,
Right.
and save the walk-off time, save the runner. So I guess that's really the trade-off there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the other trade-off of right, like let's say you have like one Rook and one RGW, and then there are multiple like tests running simultaneously. One of the other challenges is like then you have like logs interleave from like different stuff going on. So that is like a medium weight consideration, I think, for me. Like that's not the end all be all, but there is some benefit to not having too many things going on in the logs at the same time for debugging.
I agree. And in the current suite, there's a bunch of places where asserts are used instead of requires. So when there's a failure, you kind of get these weird cascades. Looking back through the logs of like that wasn't even running. That's definitely not where it failed. Why am I getting an error message from there?
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen that as well. That's also a good point.
Yeah. So sort of my thinking was this current work is refactoring the object tests that are already moved up into individual packages and what I've called the shared store, the RGW instance, all of those, to start migrating the other tests into that framework. So taking those big files and breaking them up and putting them into individual isolated packages and basically trying to eliminate all of the old tests that are shelling out and templating YAML that's fed into kubectl and get it into that framework. That's sort of the path that I'm moving on. But before I got there, I wanted to see if I could remove a bunch of these pull loops. And I've had Claude actually working on that last week. And I think if you look in that branch, that branch is not in mergeable state, but if you want to look at it, where I've created these sort of helper functions where you say create this resource or delete this resource, and then it in the background sets up watches for that and tries to avoid the active polling. If that's a model, then we can move forward to refactor all of the other stuff to work in that framework.
Sounds really great to me.
Cool. All right. Anything else on that topic then? All right. Well, that's everything from the agenda here. Any other final agenda topics before we adjourn for the week? All right. Then I think that's everything. So a couple follow-ups
Okay.
for us here, and then upcoming patch releases next week. And great to see everybody today.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
talk later.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody.
See you around.
Bye.
Okay.